Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about how to configure PiVPN in a Raspberry Pi setup, and using our travel router, we can remotely access our VPN and do our regular stuff like internet browsing or accessing any file systems. For this type of configurations, we need a Raspberry Pi where we are going to install the PiVPN, which will work as a VPN server, and then we have to have our travel router, which will try to connect to this Raspberry Pi over the VPNs. Why we need this type of setup? For example, we are traveling in some other places where we want to access office stuff remotely, sometimes due to some country restrictions or other security safeguards. We can't access remotely using our internet connection, but if we are able to connect to our VPN server, which is stored in our home lab, from there, if we log in remotely over the VPN, we can access our that country specific file servers or informations which is not restricted. So in order to go in little bit more details, let me tell you how the entire setups looks like. As a self-hosted VPN, we are using WireGuard as both client and servers. As you can see in our setup here, say for example, we are in some places. Say for example, right now we are in Virginia, and in that Virginia, we have our own laptop and phones, and then we have our travel router. This is our home. For example, our home is in California, where this home router represents the router provided by ISP for our home internet, and then we have set up our Raspberry Pi setup in our home, which is in California, and this Raspberry Pi will work as a VPN server. And in order to WireGuard client to be work, it needs a dynamic DNS configurations. And how we configure, say for example, for this service, we are going to use the DuckDNS.org, where per account it will give us 5 IP address resolution, so we can register one of the domain using the public IP provided by our home router in California, and we will register the public IP in dynamic DNS configuration. Now, when we try to access the internet from Virginia via California, we will connect our laptop and devices using the travel router. In the travel router, it will in turn connect it with the hotel internet. When our device connected with our travel router, so that travel router will create an encrypted tunnel using this default port. For example, we can use any other port as well, but for WireGuard client, we are using 518.20. So it will create an encrypted tunnel with our Raspberry Pi VPN server, and it will go using the private tunnel, and then we'll configure in our home router a port forwarding. That means anything come using this UDP 518.20 port, it will natively transfer those traffic to Raspberry Pi, and Raspberry Pi will unencrypt that traffic, and then it will use the default, or it will use the net configuration to send out this traffic to the internet. This is how the entire end-to-end flow will work. Now I would like to show you some other configurations. For example, this is our DuckDNS website. So here we can log in either our Google account or GitHub account and create the mapping based on our public IP in our home router. And this is our travel router configuration, where you can see it is connected with hotel or remote places internet. Here is the VPN configuration. Say for example, here our WireGuard client, which I will show you now how to create this profile, and we need to add those specific configurations in this WireGuard client. And once it's working properly, you can see that the VPN dashboard is up and running and sending traffic back and forth using the private IP. Now let's go over how we can do the configuration. So as I mentioned before, we need to have a Raspberry Pi 4 and above, and then as a travel router, I am giving one example that we can use. In our Raspberry Pi setup, we'll install the PiVPN, and once you run the above command, these are the installer prompt, it will come up, and then we need to fill up accordingly. Once this, we provide those configuration in web UI. When you use this curl command, there will be web UI generated. So we'll use this setup, then we need to reboot the Raspberry Pi. So once it is done, we need to create a specific profile to generate public and private keys. So this is the command, PiVPN add command, that we need to use, and once we add that, it will generate public and private IP key pairs for the tunnel encryption and decryptions. Once the profile has been created and we provide our specific profile name, then we can check what is the available, the profile, PiVPN profile is available in the Raspberry Pi. We can do the specific configuration. Say for example, I want to encrypt all the traffic that's coming along from the tunnel, or we can mention any specific IP based on our interest. And then in our home router, that means in our California home router provided by our ISPs, we can log in, and we need to enable the specific port forwarding, because we need to select a particular UDP port that's going to work for this VPN configurations. All the IP given by our home router to our local LAN is kind of a dynamic and is expired. So we can make the IP that provided to our Raspberry Pi from our home router, we can make it as a permanent, so that the IP doesn't get changed. We can install the client from our phone as well as in our home router. Some home router has a built-in VPN configurations, like WireGuard client was readily available. So you can use the QR code to generate the actual profile. And from the phone also, we can use the WireGuard app to use this specific VPN server that is we already installed in our Raspberry Pi. After that, we can go ahead and testing it that actually that VPN server, the tunnel has been established or not. So that sudo WireGuard show command will help us to take a look. And here I have shown some helpful commands that we can use in our PiVPN configurations. Due to the security purpose, I actually didn't go over all the configuration in live because it will expose our home lab setup and all the public and private IPs. But follow these steps and it will help you to install the PiVPN configuration in Raspberry Pi. As part of this video, I will try to upload this document in YouTube video descriptions. I hope this is helpful to you and thank you for watching.